Well, if you're wondering what kind of people are behind Project 2025, the de facto Republican agenda, they will tell you themselves. And no, it's not flattering.
Let me speak about the radical left. You and I have both been parts of faculties and faculty senates and understand that the left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Kevin Roberts is the president of the Heritage Foundation, which is behind Project 2025. He's got close ties to both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and despite Trump's attempts at denying this, Project 2025 is meant to be the blueprint for his second term as president, should he get one.
And this is yes or no. Is Trump's name ever mentioned in Project 2025? Yes or no? Just yes or no. I got you.
Within the document itself,
yes.
There are a number of references to the former administration.
So is Trump's name mentioned just one time?
I believe it's mentioned more.
Okay. 5 times.
I haven't counted.
Oh, okay. Well, if I told you that his name is mentioned approximately 312 times, would you have any reason to dispute that?
I don't have any reason.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's interesting that we want to try to pretend. We're not going to pretend in here. We're going to work with facts.
But according to reporting from The Guardian, Roberts bragged to colleagues roughly 2 decades ago that he killed his neighbor's dog with a shovel because it was barking too much. The dog's name was Loca, and she was a pit bull who lived near Roberts in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Roberts at the time was working as a history professor at New Mexico State University, and around the same time he was allegedly bragging to his colleagues about his problem-solving abilities, his neighbors reported their dog missing. According to Kenneth Hammond, who was the chair of the university's history department at the time Roberts was telling his story, said this: "My recollection of his account was that he was discussing in the hallway with various members of the faculty, including me, that a neighbor's dog had been barking pretty relentlessly and was, keeping the baby and probably the parents awake, and that he kind of lost it and took a shovel and killed the dog, end of problem." The account has been corroborated by others who had heard the same story from Roberts, including another professor and her spouse. 3 other professors claim to have heard the story from someone who heard it from Roberts himself. None reported that Roberts' life or his family's life was in danger or anything like that. Roberts just described the dog as being annoying. Roberts is, of course, denying the story. He says he never killed a dog with a shovel, but he did not respond to questions as to why several of his former colleagues said he did. His version of the story sounds pretty different too. According to Roberts, this is a patently untrue and baseless story backed by zero evidence. In 2004, a neighbor's chained pit bull attempted to jump a fence into my backyard as I was gardening with my young daughter. Thankfully, the owner arrived in time to restrain the animal before it could get loose and attack us. He's right, there really isn't any evidence for any of this, and it's based off of a story that was allegedly told 20 years ago. Hammond and others were unable to provide further details about the story, but apparently none of them really engaged with Roberts too much back then. He was a conservative at a liberal university, so he was already maybe less popular amongst his colleagues. And when he told this crazy story about killing a dog with a shovel, his audience members just listened and decided not to engage with him or the story any further. Hammond said, "I think that probably people were not eager to engage with him over this. It sounded like a pretty crazy thing to do, and people didn't want to get into it at that point." And I think that's a pretty normal reaction. I would probably do the same thing. If someone kills a dog and then brags about it, that's not someone that I want to get to know any further. That's not someone I'd even want to be around. I would probably just remove myself from that person's presence as quickly as I could. In response to these allegations, Roberts has claimed that the city had to remove more than 10 dogs from his neighbor's property because they were accused of animal abuse. Not only that, but Roberts' spokesperson mentioned that the owner of the dogs, Daniel Aaron, was sentenced to 78 months in prison for cocaine trafficking in 2017. That part doesn't really have a whole lot to do with any of this, but they're obviously trying to paint Roberts' former neighbor as a bad guy who shouldn't have been in charge of any animals at all. And maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. Again, most of this is hearsay. I want to make that very clear, with only certain aspects of it being backed up by public records. Daniel Aaron, however, spoke with The Guardian and confirmed that he made mistakes in his past referring to his drug trafficking charges, but today he owns a successful construction company. He said he had always had dogs, and he confirmed that in 2004, his dog, Loca, disappeared and was never found. When told about the allegations against Roberts, he said this, "Man, you never know what's inside someone's head. I'm not here to make up stories or to say he did it, but it was right around 2004 when all that happened that Loca was missing. I wish I could say, yeah, I know this fool did that, but I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is that my dog went missing and we never found her. She wasn't at the dog catchers." He also denied the claim from Roberts that more than 10 dogs were removed from his property by the city. He said, "We had 3 dogs that we kept, and then there were puppies occasionally that I would sell." And Aaron's mother denied the claims as well. Speaking Spanish, she told the reporters, "Animal services never came and took the dogs. Sure, the dogs would get out on occasion and we'd go find them and bring them back. But there was never an incident where our dogs were taken for abuse or whatever. That is simply not true. It was only with Loca that we could never figure out what happened. She disappeared and we always knew it was strange that we simply never saw her again. Daniel went out looking for her, but she was never found." So the potential hearsay is one thing, but it's coming from university professors who probably wouldn't want to risk their professional reputations by spreading a false story like this. But Roberts' attempts to demonize the neighbor and owner of the dog he allegedly hit with a shovel is another thing. He could have just denied the story. If anything, he could have attempted to discredit his former university colleagues, but instead, he chose to claim his former neighbor was an animal abuser. Then he made sure people knew that his former neighbor was a drug dealer. It doesn't help that that same former neighbor is Spanish-speaking, so in mentioning the drug dealing, which again is not relevant to this story, and in claiming animal abuse, Roberts and his team were deliberately furthering racial stereotypes that are already being perpetuated by the Republican Party. All of this is happening during a time when Republicans are lambasting Haitian immigrants for animal abuse of which they have no proof. Roberts is doing the same thing to his former neighbor, even though that neighbor was not even the one who claimed Robert killed his dog in the first place. Why did he choose to go this route with the denials? The denial would have and should have been enough. There is no proof that he killed this dog. The story should have ended with his denial. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.